Wash your hands and welcome to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name's Ian, and joining me is equipment, because today we're running solo, because we're going to try and pick up where we left off a fortnight ago with our home automation extravaganza. What we're going to try and do here today, just to lay it out here, is we got these friends. Here's one that's in a box. The Sonoff Tasmota, which is not the Sonoff Tasmota. The Sonoff Basic is the name of the game in terms of hardware, and it's a little piece of hardware equipment. Just with this, it's got an in-hole for electronics, and by electronics I mean AC current. It's got an out-hole for AC current. And in between, you've got one of my favorite pieces of technology, the ESP8266 chip, which is a Wi-Fi and other goodness all wrapped up inside one little package. There's also a relay on there too.
So this is just basically an ESP8266 with stuff added to it to make it work with AC power, to make it allow it to switch AC power.
Correct. You got it right there. It's a big old relay. And that's the clicky.
You say ESP. Does that mean that it can speak with the dead?
Unfortunately, is not.
I mean, if the dead use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, maybe.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi specifically, and very specifically, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. These things don't work on the 5 gigahertz, which is important to know because you'll need to make sure that that's available for these to work with you. But because they have this nice little chip on them, that means that we can do things with them that maybe they weren't necessarily designed to do in the first place. Out of the box, these things work. I mean, they've got a lot of kanji on them because they are Minzi made in China, and normally they're.
So it's just a happy coincidence that they used the ESP like that. It wasn't like we're gonna make a thing so that hackers can mess with their power.
Exactly. It turns out there's a lot of devices out there that use the ESP8266, and people like me like to go and hunt these devices down because oftentimes there's something on the board, and in this instance, let's compare the two. It'll allow you to get in there and actually flash things and do new interesting stuff. In this instance, it's these 4 little holes there, and they correspond to ground, 3.3 volt, and transmission and reception serial.
So
style.
this doesn't have the regular pins that the ESP would have.
Exactly. Yeah, because this is the ESP itself. So actually, here we've got an example here of one of our other favorite devices. In fact, something we'll need to come back to in the near future, probably. So this, when we talk about the ESP8266, this is normally what we're talking about right here, which is this package. There's a chip on there, there's some other stuff, and it surface mounts to the things. You can see the antenna. On this side here, that little trace there is the antenna. But the ESP8266 itself is just the chip. And in that case, it's, you see that little thing with the yellow on it? See if you can zoom. Let's see if we can get right in there. Yeah, there it is. That's the chip. That's where the magic happens.
Why is it so much smaller than the one from the other?
Well, if we were to actually decap, there we go. If we were able to actually decap this, like not even decap it, just pull this metal shell off, you'd see a similar sort of just tiny little circuit board, some ancillary electronics around it.
It's just like they have that on it literally because otherwise they couldn't fit all the traces to put out to the outputs?
Yeah, these are actually set up as more of a component, I guess you could say, so that you've got the Wi-Fi antenna on it already, and the rest of this board is literally just breakout and USB interface.
Right, sort of for DIY stuff.
For flashing. Whereas this one, they eschew the USB interface because they're not meant to be consumer flash. They're meant to be just used with the app that they come with. But we don't want to do that. We want to be able to get in there and use our own firmware because we want to control it from top to bottom and not have it phone home to China every time we want to turn on our lights. But that's not all that's great about the ESP8266. It has a lot of general purpose input-output ports on it. A lot of those pins on that chip there can be used for other things. So 2 of them, as we mentioned earlier, are already on the board here in terms of the in and out port, the RX and the TX for serial connections, as well as the ground and whatnot. There's also a couple other traces on and pads on this board that correspond with a couple of other general purpose input-output ports, which means you can do analog sensing with them, you can do digital sensing with them.
So there's some pads and stuff that aren't actually currently being used on the board.
Exactly. And you could even just, if you really wanted to, get right in there and flash or solder directly to the pins on the chip, should you want to.
What can't you do with this small device?
Well, I remember, I was messing around with one a little while ago, that one there that Ian was showing. And what I love about the history of the thing is that it was originally, like, what it is a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip intended to add Wi-Fi and Bluetooth functionality to other devices.
Yep. And
so they're like, this will be great. We'll make this Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, and then that'll be able to be easily plugged into all sorts of different things, Arduinos or other embedded systems, and it will add Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capabilities. It'll be great.
It's like the sort of thing you could sell to places like Sonos or anyone else who makes speakers.
And people used them for that for a while. And then somebody was like, so we've got this Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, but in order to make a Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, it's got to have, some memory in it to, for instance, store the Wi-Fi passwords and cache the local Wi-Fi stuff. And it's got to have a bunch of memory, and it's got to have a bunch of processor in it to deal with all the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth capabilities and all this different stuff. Couldn't we just use that? It's like use the little teeny weeny processor that's on the chip to do stuff without plugging into anything else. And so it's like a thing that was supposed to be just a Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip. People realized that if you just use the chip itself as the CPU, you get Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for free.
Yep. If I told, I keep saying this, but if I told 14-year-old Ian, who had just come back from a research talk about the internet where we were demoed NCSA Mosaic, we told 14-year-old Ian that, in 30 or 20 years' time, you'll be able to get this tiny chip that can have a web server on it, and it'll cost you $5, I would have laughed at it. And I still laugh every time I buy a batch of these because they're great. The problem is that this is not an ESP8266. It's an ESP8286, which is fine. It actually works exactly the same way.
It's a higher number, so it's better, right?
It actually has a bit more, I think a whole megabyte more space on it. But it's very capable. There's a lot of things you can do with them. For example, things that you can do with it are you can hook up sensors like this temperature humidity sensor and report temperature and humidity.
Sorry, I think your mic is just rubbing on your shirt. It kind of fell in your...
I'm going to pull that down just a bit for purposes of goodness. Finding out if that does anything wrong.
That's better.
Okay, so yeah, temperature and humidity sensors, useful for fun. Other things are, yes, these.
So these are things that are not originally intended for these sawn-off devices, but you can just plug them into the pins on the...
Correct, because there's a number of firmwares out there that you can install on the ESP8266 and various families of devices. For example, maybe you'd want to add a tiny motion sensor. Again, another like $2 adapter. And then suddenly you now have the ability to sense motion in a room. You can even hook it up to an external piece of software, maybe something like Home Assistant, and have these things do what you want in response to whatever.
You could set up the scariest Halloween door setup ever.
You really could. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start off with hooking up flashing one of these, and we're going to get past the problems we had last week or last time. Get through that. We're going to attempt to set it up with a motion sensor just to show off how that works, and we're most definitely going to finally get this on-air sign working in such a way that it will be able to turn on automatically whenever Loading Ready Run, the account, streams on Twitch. And then if we have time after that, we're going to play around with one of the other sensors that I have picked up, which is a load cell, which I want to use specifically so that I can try it at home first, because I want to have the ability to find out how much fluid is left in my kegerator. And I think that's something that would probably be helpful here at the moon base as well.
That's what they mean by load.
Does load as in weight?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, mass, a load sensor in that it reads how much pressure is being put on the sensor.
It tests whether something is like a load. Is a big load.
I mean, let's
This is just a load of crap, is what this is. That's what the sensor can
let's
sense.
actually spend just 30 seconds here having a look at that, because if you have a scale that was made in the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, you've probably got about between 2 and 4 of these inside it that are hooked up to another chip, and that's just what tells you what your weight is.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Like, wait, this sounds like a normal word that someone would use in their day-to-day life. Oh yeah, it's a scale.
So you have them in like the 4 corners of the scale, and then
Exactly, or 2 corners, depending on how much the load sensors can handle. I believe these are 25 pounds per. So that means
right. I guess they have to be sort of calibrated to the right air level.
Yeah, and you don't want to overload the sensor, because at that point, I mean, it just says you're fat. How fat? I don't know. Get off.
So we now have the technology. We could just make a thing that you step on it and it says you're fat.
Wow, we got a lot of vibration happening here in the moon base thanks to the AC
ESP.
system. So this is something I never do on the show before, but here's one I created earlier. We were having such a trouble flashing these chips last week that I decided to try it out at home, and turns out I can't tell if it's the fact that the FTDI flasher I was using is just straight up bad, or if it needs some adjustment, but when you use a Raspberry Pi to flash things, because Raspberry Pis also have a bunch of general purpose input-output ports, including serial, that worked just fine. So why don't we start with that? Let's try flashing one of our new ones here, and go from there. I realized I am in need of a mini USB cable. If I could ask...
Mini, not micro?
Yes.
But what's the difference?
Well, Matt, a mini USB cable is thicker than on the end than a micro, but oddly enough, it's also rated for more insertions.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, the mini USB cable is rated for more micro USB is rated for more insertions than mini.
Good to know. Good to know.
Weirdly, you find mini in a lot of audio devices, and micro just seems to be everywhere. Micro is the super flat one that has a sort of a flat top with some teeth on top, and then some just a little bit of tiny angular bits.
Little divot.
Parson Mosaic says yes, the PS3 uses mini. Correct. The PS4 uses micro. And yeah, mini is common in DIY mechanical keyboards for some reason as well. I think probably because it's a lot easier to solder a mini USB connector than it is a micro USB connector.
Is it closer to human scale, or?
Much larger.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a couple examples if you're curious, Matt. on the size of the holes and the solder points.
Primary.
Oh,
Ah, thank you. Thank you, other thing.
other thing.
So the one on the right, on the red circuit board here, that is a mini USB, and on the Raspberry Pi here, or right there, is a micro USB. You can see they're very small traces, but
Yeah, the micro has like a little kind of step to it. The primary place I saw in the chat there that you'd see it. PS3 controllers use micro, or use mini, I should say.
all right.
And PS4 controllers use micro.
One more thing I need. So we're going to use the Raspberry Pi to do the actual flashing. So why did I bring out this FTDI board? Because while I don't know if it will properly flash, I've been testing it with screen and terminal just to see if it does anything, and it doesn't seem to. But what it does do is provide the necessary 3.3 volts of power. Hey, guess what? I had the cable I needed. I came prepared today.
Wow.
We'll keep that to the side, though, just to keep things clear.
I would put forward that coming prepared and then forgetting that you were prepared kind of takes away from the preparedness.
Oh, boy. Okay. You'll have to bear with me, chat, because I am currently in...
You're currently going cross-eyed.
Well, yeah, I'm currently in the process of getting through a little bit of an aura migraine. It came on at the beginning of the show, believe it or not. So reading the tiny text on this thing to find out which is the voltage and which is the ground is a little bit difficult. But we got there. And the ground will connect to the ground, because thankfully that's not as obscured. And the reason I'm doing this is that if you attempt to hook up directly to the voltage on the Raspberry Pi while it's running, it reboots the Raspberry Pi, and that kind of sucks. So let's get that booted up right now and get that ready for the flashing.
Can't get you anything, can I?
Oh no, I'm unfortunately, yeah, it's just vision based right now. Thankfully, I don't get the crushing pain of migraines, but I do lose the vision, which can be difficult sometimes. Hopefully, we won't need to. Hopefully, we won't need to solder much today, or that'll get work sooner. Did this turn on?
Should.
It should.
Sleepy noise.
Yep, it should make a bleepy noise, and it will once I plug it in.
Is there a reason why flashing these things is so difficult? It seems like that's the biggest issue you've had with a couple of these projects.
It's really, the biggest problem is making sure that your hardware is working correctly, and I think what happens is I tend to cheap out on hardware quite a bit sometimes.
Oh.
You know, $5 controllers.
Well, I mean, it's a tricky situation, right? Because the whole thing, you know, it's like with the ESP and all this stuff is based around it being, you know, real cheap. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, even like as you add even like $1 or a couple dollars to the cost of these components, it very rapidly gets into an area where it's like, well, now it's not worth, you know, now I might as well just get a Raspberry Pi or something like and then, or you add a couple dollars to a Raspberry Pi and it's like, well, now it's not, I can get something better. Like everything is based around being as inexpensive as possible.
Mm-hmm. Where was I going with that? Right, Raspberry Pi. Then this is a Raspberry Pi Model B, because again, cheaping out. Actually, mainly because I haven't had a need for anything better than this. Most of the projects that people use Raspberry Pis for, I just run in jails on my FreeNAS system, which is like virtual machines, but not actually virtual machines. We can get into that another time. But boy, the new Raspberry Pi 4 is like really, really good. If I ever need to make a portable computer, actually, that's another project that's coming soon. Well, not soon, but will be coming up on Tinker Tailor. Anyway, yeah, getting a Raspberry Pi up and running is an exercise to the viewer. I will assume that you will know how to do that. It's pretty easy and it's well documented online. But default login, Pi, Raspberry, nice. Incorrect.
Oh no.
There we go, we're in. Okay. Now, what we need to do?
General piece of password security. Maybe try not to read your password out loud as you're typing it into your own home computer.
Yep.
Generally not a great idea.
That's why I mentioned default.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's plug this in here to there. That's going to power that up. We're not going to use it again, as I said, for full use. We do need to, though, you'll need to check your GPIO ports and connect to the transmission and reception ports, serial ports from the GPIO.
So many ports.
I could tell you which ports those are, but I'd have to count, and that's probably not worth our time. What I'm going to say is that R I have put to RX, because I like that sort of thing, which means that goes to TX on the ESP, or the Sonoff. Now, you'll note that I've been saying Sonoff Tasmodo a lot, and that's generally because I conflate the two, because Tasmota is the name of the firmware software that we will be installing onto this. Hence, at the end, it will be a Sonoff Tasmodo. Let's get ground to, or actually let's get power to power. White's my power and gray is my ground. Now, here's where we were having some trouble, or where I thought I was having troubles last time, was getting into flash mode. And after a good week of spending my evenings trying to figure out how to flash these things, this was part of the problem. Flash mode for the ESP8266 is simply hold down the button, which is connected to GPIO 0, I believe. So you're bridging 0 to ground. You can do that on the chip if you like, or if it has a button installed, like this one handily does, you can just use the button. Hold it down and then connect it to power, and then release, and that gets you into flash mode. On the ESP8285, which we are currently working with, the method to get into flash mode, and this I was able to find buried in a GitHub thread.
As always.
Or not even a GitHub thread. Buried in a Google Groups thread, which is something that no longer even exists at this point. And was, let me see if I can quote it directly.
Is this particular variation of the ESP one that was not very popular? Like, it's just not many people use it?
The problem is they kind of just show up randomly within these Sonoffs. Some batches are the same, and then some are the other ones. Yeah, the method of getting into flash mode is keep it hold down when you boot it up, wait 2 seconds, release the button, then push it again.
Hold it down, release the button, rotate 90 degrees, try again.
Mm-hmm. And as the person who posted this to the forum said, works flawlessly for me.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Good to know. So let's do that. Let's get our 3.3 volts in position. Ooh, and hold down the button.
I wonder if they evaluated that, like, there was a problem with people flashing it accidentally because of just like something
Let go.
pushing on the button.
2.
Maybe.
Let go. Okay, that's good. Then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have downloaded earlier the Sonoff firmware, and you can find, or the Tasmota firmware. You can find that at tasmota.github.io.
Don't you love the instructions where you go, step 3, you should have already done this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a number of settings you need to also change within the Raspberry Pi settings in order to get it into a flash mode. I keep an SD card specifically set up for flashing with, just so I don't have to do that each time. Okay, once you got it in there, let's have a look here, and you're going to need to download a piece of software called ESP Tool. to do this by the command line. Again, you could do this via if you get a better FTDI serial adapter, or if you have one that you know works, you can use the Tasmotizer graphical user interface. Do this the easy way, but we're not doing this the easy way.
Tasmotizer?
The Tasmotizer, as in make Tasmota happen. Okay.
Excellent.
So this is the command we're eventually going to get to. sudo esp tool.py -- port /dev/tt or tyama0, which is the serial port on the Raspberry Pi. Write flash -fs 1 megabyte -fm dout 0x0 tasmota sensors.bin.
All right.
But before we do that,
push FS to doubt.
we need to sudo esp tool erase _flash. Need to get this boy ready for flashing. This will be able to find out if okay, and you can see it's trying to connect, which means I got it right.
And we're proud of you for getting it right.
And there we go. The device is now clear of any
Hard
firmware.
reset.
All
Cool.
that's left in there is enough code just to get us to the point where we can get it back into flash mode.
So this is the point where you've actually bricked your system. Like this is the thing where it's like when you install a new firmware and you unplug it halfway through the install, and it's like, well, now you bricked it. You have to reinstall you have to redo everything. Luckily, you already have the setup. You were intending to do this. You have all the setup, but
Socratic method, that is tasmota.github.io, or you could just Google for Tasmota, and there's a lot of documentation there. Real gamer account, I say SUDO because it's an acronym for super user do.
I did not know that, and now I know that.
So we're going to have to reset it. So disconnect the power, hold down the button, connect, no, hold down the button. This is where having vision that works is preferable.
But you just got new glasses. You should have vision
know.
that works.
Okay, these pins are a little small. I'm going to try the connection on the right off the board here. Lord help me, you do not know how much I went through trying to get this to work. There were resistors involved, there were bridges, it was a tough time. So hold down the button, connect the power, 2, release the power button, push the button back in, and that should have us in flash mode. Okay. Oh, it's switch user? Well, there we go. Now I'm an idiot.
yeah, right. It's switch user, but the default happens to be root,
Yeah.
which is why that works out. But
Okay. Anyway, we're back to there.
theoretically, you can sudo to anybody.
Here's our command, and boop. Let's hope this takes. Connecting.
Uploading
Uploading
stub running.
And now we get a very small
Ooh.
wait while it installs some software.
I love increasing percentages.
Features Wi-Fi, embedded flash. Embedded flash. Oh man.
I thought Steve killed Flash years
Yeah.
ago.
At least we'll be able to look at Newgrounds on your home automation system.
Thank you, Socratic Method. It has to be io/docs. That's why.
So my impression is that, like, obviously the ESP is a cool little board, but anything that's dealing when you actually start dealing with like power from the wall, there's all sorts of considerations in terms of not only safety but just that you're dealing with a massive amount of power in comparison to what the board is supposed to deal with, and so it's a little bit complex to get that working.
Correct.
And so the idea is that using this thing kind of short circuits that, ideally doesn't short circuit that, but it's sort of a
Workaround?
Yeah, obviously you could have your own ESP board and then buy the connection so you can hook it up to the wall power yourself.
Like the little connections off the edge here of this Wemos Mini D1. These are just all connected directly to the chip as well. and they
Right.
just got them labeled.
So if you had
Yeah,
power from the wall going through there, it would fry it immediately.
exactly. So what you'd need to do is you'd need to get a buck converter in there and step down the power from. Well, first of all, you'd need to go from AC power to DC power,
And
then
you-
step the DC down to 3.3 volts.
And then there's like a relay in
Yeah.
order to actually
And
do
then
the
you have to
switching.
split it. So this is just all those things handily already done for you.
Right.
But yeah, you could build it yourself if you actually
And
wanted
done in a little sort of nice package.
Yeah. So yeah, right now it's running off of 3.3 volts. And right now, actually, let's not switch to the laptop because once we reset it, let's reset this now. Boop. That did succeed, right? Yes, it did. Okay. So you can see it's flashing now.
Because you flashed it.
Yes, it's flashing because I flashed. What that means is that it's now in a mode where it's broadcasting its own little.
So it's got the
Wi-Fi.
full Tasmata stuff loaded onto it now.
Correct, and it's showing up in my Wi-Fi. Again, don't switch to the screen yet, but it's showing up as Tasmota 2057. So we're going to connect to that on my laptop here, and oh right, I do need to disconnect from the other Wi-Fi too. This is why Wi-Fi 2 disconnect.
This is doing the little sort of bootstrap connection to the office Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay. So you can actually switch over now, and this is what we get. It's on a basic module Tasmota, and this is where you stick in your information for which Wi-Fi you want it to connect to.
I don't know, whoever first came up with this sort of bootstrap Wi-Fi connection model is quite brilliant. Like the idea of you have the Wi-Fi chip, starts up a little Wi-Fi network, and then you connect to that in order to set the real settings when you don't actually have a real UI to work with, like when you don't have any kind of external way to set any Wi-Fi settings in it. It's quite elegant.
I'm really pleased with it. Can we cut away for a second? Because I'm going to connect this to our Wi-Fi. So you can either input the information directly, or you can get in there and do a scan. Huh. I'm beginning to wonder if our Wi-Fi here at the office has a 2.4 gigahertz mode.
Should. There's that iPad isn't right there as an iPad 1. I'm pretty sure that doesn't have 5 gigahertz on it.
Okay, well, in that case, what I'm going to do here is I will input this information directly. So,
Also, we've connected lots of ESPs to this network
good point, good point.
over the years.
Okay, I think that's correct. This is good. Save, and the device will restart. And if I don't see the Wi-Fi, if I don't see it show up again once it comes back online, then we'll know we've done it correctly.
I can also see whether it actually has been assigned an IP
That's
address.
good because I'll need that IP address. What I'm going to do while you do that is we're going to still here. Couldn't connect to this network. That's a good sign. Okay, we might need to restart it, which means this is probably a good time for us to plug it into the mains. So it's flashed. It should be good to go. Let's take our mains plug out of my previously existing one here.
I know that like like plug it into the mains is it's like a British term, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really have an equivalent. Like you sort of plug it into the wall, but that's not very precise.
Mm-hmm.
Like plug it into the mains has a very specific meaning of plug it into the actual the power coming out of the wall, but we don't really have an equivalent word in North America for it.
No, we don't. But I'll stick with main. I'll hold on
Yeah,
to
I like
mains.
that's I like main. I like plug it into the mains, but it sounds like you're trying to pretend to be British, and it's like no, that's just we don't have a good word for it.
Isn't that just all Canadians, though?
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
I feel very attacked right now.
I know I'm trying to be British, at least in speech. They're good at it. Okay, there we go. And if I remember correctly, we want to connect with big neutral energy. Because the big spade is neutral. And the little spade is hot. So let's click, let's leave the cover off for now. Because we'll be in here to connect some other stuff in a very short amount of time. That's one down. There we go. Bolted in. All right. Hopefully now this should work as intended. Don't touch the hot thing. Shaking hands with Benjamin Franklin. Like that. Okay. Yeah, I have definitely had a bit of vibration out of one of these in the past. Okay. Power's on. Powered in.
Is it supposed to be flashing?
It might not be. Whoops. That's the output. Let's hope that didn't do anything untowards.
I didn't hear any fizzing.
I mean, ideally it shouldn't do anything because nothing is hooked up on that side. Let's try that again. Big spade to...
Now I'm assuming that it probably doesn't have like it's probably not broadcasting any kind of useful DHCP ID, is it?
Yeah, it'll show up as Tasmota-something something.
Oh, really?
It won't show up yet because it's currently not on.
Oh, okay, that's why. I was like, I don't see anything on the network. I see something called just like generic, but
Yeah, that's definitely not it. No, it'll show up with its own self-assigned name too, which is
that's
nice.
handy.
What name are you going to assign it?
Oh, well, that's a good question. That's something you'll have to think about when you're doing this on your own.
I think Jeremy would be a good name for it.
I think it's a nice name. It's a pleasant name. I don't know if it's descriptive enough. I mean, you could do like I do and label it when you actually put it together as well. And that way you'll always know. I think what I need is longer cables too. Okay, there we go. Power.
It is flashing.
Flashing. Okay, we'll
right.
soon see if it'll...
We have 2 votes for Kevin and 1 vote for Pickle.
Pickle. What about Walter? Because it's going to be on the wall.
Oh, I like that.
Walter. Okay, so it's not,
Otto.
Yeah.
currently isn't showing up as a device, which means it should be searching. We can tell that is the case because, well, we can tell it's on because when you click the button, that activates the relay. You can just hear the click there.
Huh.
But I don't know if it's...
Ooh, how about Daniel after Dan the Automator?
Ooh, hey, I like that. Okay.
So we're still not quite sure what the blinking light means, eh?
Yeah, the blinking light means that it's searching.
For the Wi-Fi?
Yep.
It's searching for a connection, like all of us do in our lives.
I mean, you were having some issues with it. It doesn't seem to be detecting the network.
Oh. Oh, no, that might not work. Wait a minute. Yes. Yes, if I do it that way. So let's disconnect from that. Wait. Let's connect that. Okay. And then let's Wi-Fi 2. Connect that. Let's turn on a mobile hotspot. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do instead is see if I can get it to connect to my laptop's mobile hotspot, which means we're going to want to reflash it here because, unfortunately,
Does it only do it once?
I've never successfully gotten these ones to work properly with a reset.
Huh.
Actually, you know what? Let's try the reset. Let's see if that helps us out here. So that means pushing that and holding it down for maybe 20 seconds while we plug it in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Congratulations, you just washed your hands.
Touch the face.
Think of it as performing a reset on your hands.
Okay. Doesn't look like that works. So yeah, we'll need to do the reflashinating.
Yeah, because it's not even flashing now.
Yeah. I think there's ways around this, but I haven't found them.
So it's like once you put in the Wi-Fi info, it's stuck.
It shouldn't be. That's the problem. But that'll be an exercise for another show. All right. Let's see here. TX is top, so that's the RX from that side. TX from the bottom. And then we'll reconnect the power. That side is 3.3 volts. That's the white side. And gray is ground.
Having a little board like that with just like a big normal power cable hanging
Yeah.
off of it looks very odd.
Where did the power come from?
From within.
Boop.
Believe in yourself.
1, 2. Let go back on. Perfect. And let's just push the flash. Not even reset. And this works first time every time.
Do you have to erase it again and do it again, or you just have to...
I'm just flashing it this time, just to see if it works. It should just be able to work with the flashing, but we'll find out together. Yeah, man. Do-do-do. 92, 96, 100. Perfect. Okay. So let's disconnect.
When it starts going to like 112, 113, 117, you're like, oh.
We've made some choices. Okay. Plug it back in.
The light is now on.
Light is once again flashinating. Let's see if I can find it on the Wi-Fi's. Let's use our Wi-Fi 2. Disconnect from us. Connect to. Can't find. That's right, because Wi-Fi 3 is too good. You know what? I think we might actually need to erase it, which I thought might be the case, but
How silly. There's no way to get it, because I know like with the little board that I was messing around with, you're storing the data in, or the login data in the on the little flash chip on the thing, and so you just have to clear that flash. You have to wipe that flash chip and it'll start doing the connection thing again. But
yeah, I think it's all on the one in the.
But I guess since you're only connecting through the serial thing, you don't have as much access to it.
Exactly. I would need to. I'd need to probably connect it via serial, which while it's being powered, which could be dangerous. Oop, okay, so hold down. 2, let go. 1, 2. There we go.
That's right. Kids, don't connect to serial while you're powered.
And you can see how you can get in a very easy groove here with this while you're. Okay, and then that disconnected that one as well. My vision's almost back. Perfect.
Yay!
That was a short migraine.
1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, and then here we go. In we go. Flashing. Now, ideally, you don't want to flash too many times because you will. These chips do have a limited lifespan of how many times they can
Oh, really?
be run. Yeah,
Like a lot? Like a
it is in, I think, like up close to 100. It's either high double digits or higher than that.
wow.
Huh.
But
Wait, so like when, like with that little ESP that I was working on, is it flashing it every time you're like loading in a program?
yeah, every time you have to push a binary or a hex file to the device, yeah, you are. And in fact, actually, every time you even change non-volatile settings, you are. It's like flash memory in an SSD too. There's
But wow, because I mean you have to send the thing to it to when you're actually just like working on it to debug it. And I'm used to just doing that a lot. I didn't realize that it was going to hit up against the big limit.
Dark Morford points out that most flash is rated for 100,000 write cycles. So yeah, while there is a limited cycle, it's not something you're going to hit very soon.
Oh, okay. You were saying like double digits. And I was like, oh,
Like
crap.
90.
I was incorrect. Okay.
I was just thinking that was incredibly fragile. Like, why would you bother at that point?
Okay. Please scan.
The light is on.
Yep. Light is flashing. That's a good sign.
So I'm assuming the way this is set up, the relay to turn on the power, to turn on and off the power that's flowing through it, is connected to one of the pins on the ESP, like a known pin on the ESP, right? So you just set that pin to high, and then that activates the relay, which opens up the.
Exactly. and that can be set in software. Right now, as you mentioned, yeah, it's set to this button, and that
Oh, okay.
flips the relay.
But it can be set. But what pin is connected to the relays can actually be configured. It's not a locked in thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
so you
interesting.
could even just turn off the relay entirely, should you wish to. Okay, let's do another scan for networks. Okay, now it sees us, which is weird. But okay, let's
Okay.
do that.
The fact that it says every single network has the same, quality. Oh no, I guess it's all different. I don't know.
Okay, and I want to make sure I'm using. And it's all lowercase, our password, right?
It is numeral 5.
That's my problem. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, it's Roman numeral 5.
Is it?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
It's Roman Reigns 5.
Roman Reigns 5. There we go.
No. It's all uppercase dick butt.
Yes. I mean, that is what I put in for our for my Home Assistant install. Okay. Oh. Okay, that's good.
Oh, good.
Note the light is off. That's what we want to see after a reset. Can you tell me if there is a device called Tasmota something something on our network?
Is it in?
Tasmodian devil. Let's see here. Yes.
Aha!
Tasmoda 0 or 2057.
Fantastic. What is the IP address? Or
205 is
205?
the last piece of the IP address.
Perfect. Okay.
Tasmodon.
Tasmodon. Everybody's all the time. Aha. Oh, that's. Want to make sure I've got.
Recently, my phone auto-completed dick butt after I typed DI. And I blame LR for that. Look, we never told you to write it on your own phone. Also, what are you doing writing that? Are you trying to hack into our networks?
All right. If you'd like to see the dashboard for this thing now, we have.
It's off.
And then you can hit the toggle button and listen for the click.
Yay! So that's whether it's connected or not.
Exactly. So I think actually at this point we could probably connect it to the light itself. But let's go through some configuration here that we need to know. And
So this is not the this is the Tasmota, not the built-in software. Like the built-in software had some sort of app that allowed you to mess with it too, right?
Correct. But not one that you could log into yourself. You'd have to go through the Tasmota phone app system. And what that would do is actually send commands back to China, which would then connect to your Tasmota.
And somebody would be like, interesting. Mr.
Yeah,
Horner just turned off his lights.
Probably something that you
What
don't
does
need to
that
worry
mean?
about. But on the other hand, something maybe you don't want people doing. Maybe you just want direct control. I always assume direct control. Okay, let's see here. What is the next? The next step is closing Windows, and that is done via that. Okay. So, next step, you're going to want a copy of Home Assistant, because by itself, this does nothing. Why would you want to just log into your Switch directly and push the button? Well,
So the Tasmota software also, as well as this little interface, also provides interfaces for adding other capabilities, eh?
correct. So one of the first things we're going to do is set up an MQTT server, because that's the system that Tasmoto has chosen to broadcast and receive information and distribute the control. It's sort of a pub-sub server system that's extremely lightweight, and I've taken to liking it recently. So
It's quite a low level protocol, isn't it? Like it's actually below like TCP, like it's lower on the stack than like TCP. Like it's not a.
I'm actually unsure on that, to be honest.
It's like its own thing, I thought. Yeah.
That sounds right, because it is extremely quick and extremely lightweight.
I believe it's intended for like sensors and things to send data back and forth.
So, there should be a... Aha! So, for this setup, I've chosen to just use... I've installed Home Assistant. Again, this is an exercise for the user at home. But I've chosen to run it in VirtualBox as a... they've distributed it as a downloadable VirtualBox. So we'll run VirtualBox IXI or any number of other emulation systems. You can install it directly into your... you can install it all sorts of places. Home Assistant runs off of Python, so anywhere that Python runs, you can install it yourself. I'm actually quite impressed with how easy the virtual system makes it, though.
And this is an open source home automation sort of front end. Eh?
Correct. Again, something that you will control. It's not sending your information off to anyone else. It's as open as you decide to make it. And we're going to go to the add-on store here, and we're going to attempt to search for
I love
MQTT.
I love open source add-on things where it's like you know, you can download Almond. What's Almond? This is the server for Almond. Oh, good.
It kind of assumes that you're inside of the inside.
It's like if you know that you need this, this is it. If you don't need it, then it's probably not for you.
If you know that you like almonds, then this is for you.
Create a new MQTT. Okay. Oh, so this has some configurations.
I like have patience as one of the steps. That's a tough one.
Oh, logins are optional. Okay. So we might just be able to do this in easy mode. No, let's just install it. Boop. Failed to install add-on. Unknown error. See logs.
It did say be patient.
Thanks, system.
The open source stream marches on.
Let's check logs. Configuration.
Looks like there's a couple of other MQTTs.
Yeah. Login attempt. Retrying 15. Okay, so that was it. Let's go back. Add in store system. There we go. Everything is safe. Okay, good. Let's try that again. MQTT.
Like that's the broker. There's also like community. There's also this other stuff here. Server and web client.
It's got a rating of 6. This add-on is in a deprecated state. Well, that seems less than good. Oh, I bet I might need to restart this system because it might not have access to the internet, which could be make things difficult. Let's try this again. Or actually, let's restart the system and make sure that it's working. Server controls. Restart Home Assistant. Are you sure? Yes. Connection lost. Restarting.
Whenever you're messing around with this stuff, I'm always imagining just like, you know, Corey is working at home and suddenly all the lights turn off. And just a robotic voice is like, rebooting.
Bidet activated.
All right, we have reconnected, it looks like. Let's head back on over to the supervisor section. And there's an update for the core and for the operating system. Wow, that. I wonder if that actually has anything to do with it.
Wait, what's the core? And
Uh,
what's
So the core would be the Home Assistant software itself, the
Mm.
the Python program, and the operating system would be the Linux that it's running on top of in the virtual machine.
Oh wow! So this dashboard actually has can actually controls the underlying distribution of Linux as
Yeah,
well.
I'm actually really impressed with this with the virtualized version. It makes things pretty easy. MQTT, try again. Install. Spin, spin, spin to win.
Well, that got farther than it did before.
Yeah, the little spinny thing is making different colors, so that's good.
Yay!
Aha! And it's worked. Start on boot.
Are you going to auto update or no?
Not right now.
Yeah.
We'll look into that later. This is the first time I'm doing it. I did this the hard way, chat,
Oh, good.
which is to say, installing it in its own jail. But this makes things real easy.
Making a mosquito jail is very difficult. The bars have to be very close together.
Connection has been lost. Reconnecting. I hope that means that it's completing the install, and not that I have just completely knackered everything.
It says start the add-on, have some patience, and wait a couple of minutes. Check the add-on log output to see the results.
I'm just going to copy this. Copy that. Paste that. Okay, good. So we are... Interesting.
We are interesting.
We are very interesting, yeah. Why is it doing this? Well, okay, let's go ahead. Loading, ready, run. Loading, ready, run. There we go. Not going to let you guys in.
Wait, the password for your home assistant is loading ready run?
No, this is not my home. Okay. Do I need another one?
You're creating an account here, right?
Yeah.
Does it have three-factor authentication?
3-factor. Good lord. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to reboot the underlying OS now. Let's just go to VirtualBox. Let's go to VirtualBox. Remember when I said I was impressed with all this?
Mhm.
Well, I'm still impressed.
It's just a bad impression now.
If it did install things the way it was supposed to, this will be quite the coup.
If it did what it was supposed to, that will be impressive.
It's open source software. That is the mantra of the open source software. If it did what it's supposed to do, that'll be impressive.
All right.
Okay. And a start job is running for network manager. Wait online. Wait online. Failed. That seems bad. Oh.
No, let's not be hasty. Can I switch to that, or should we let's not look at it right now?
Yeah, you should be good now. Oops. Burp. I'm always happy when I see these things enter promiscuous mode.
Yeah, that's how you know that your Wi-Fi is really ready.
All right. Starting kudev.
Yeah, it's a good, open source software. Had it worked, it would be very impressive.
Hey, we've got one piece of open source software working today.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing some reading too, and you might be interested in this specifically, Paul, because we don't want to have a home automation system or home assistant working here at Loading Ready Run. I believe that you can also control these task motor devices via a just URLs. So
Like just through like GET requests.
exactly.
I mean, I mean, frankly, I would assume that they would have like if it's got a that it has some sort of API for connecting to it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a good reason why we would need to have a thing that turns something on and off.
Oh my gosh.
We could do, have fun stuff. I mean, theoretically, by tying it into overlay and Lurbot things, you could do, when people send, when somebody subscribes, a light turns on or whatever, right?
All sorts of interesting things. Server now no longer found. Connect to that. Oh.
Is that a good noise?
Maybe. Right.
Yeah, we could tie it into channel points. Submit, for 1,000 channel points, you can
Turn on the light.
turn on the light. 10,000 channel points, you can, I don't know, raise the temperature in the office by 1 degree.
Love it. Okay, we're going to try one more restart here, and hopefully that will work. Did we do any network shenanigans which would cause the chat to stop?
No.
Okay.
Is it not running right now?
Yeah, the last message I've got here is Phoenix Mailor saying, "Hey, chat, I definitely just didn't take a 90-minute nap."
Oh,
Is the chat taking a nap now?
That is a chat monitor that has disconnected from the network. One sec.
Let's see.
Ian, why are you breaking the office?
I'm allowed to?
It's part of your job.
Oh, I should have that connect automatically for me. There we go. Right?
This one's disconnected too. That's some weirdness.
I'm just going to power off this machine, and I'm going to fix the bridging AC.
There's a problem with your bridging?
It could be.
Hmm.
Okay, Wi-Fi 3. Connect automatically and connect to the thing. Wi-Fi 2. Connect automatically and connect to the thing. Okay, and we are connected to the AC, which is what it's supposed to be. Let's start the virtual machine again and hope it comes back.
So, what seem to be actually connecting, or neither of these can actually connect to the network right now.
Oh no. That
It's going to cause you problems.
yeah, that could explain why I wasn't getting a connection on one of these.
Is our network having issues?
Shouldn't be.
I mean, we're still streaming everything. It's just a Wi-Fi thing.
Yep, well, I can connect to apple.com. And I always like to try a site that I would never go to normally, like dell.ca. Dell.ca does load. Dude, you're connecting to Dell.
Gotta tell Dell.
I'd rather not. Okay. Is the Tasmota still connected? It is. That's a good sign. Telltale click.
That is the heartbeat under the floorboards.
So I guess I don't really need this keyboard anymore. I can put that to the side. Let's see here. Still waiting for that virtual machine to boot itself. Why you no do, machine? Did everything die? Have I ruined it all? I'm going to disconnect the extra Wi-Fi just to make it easier.
At what point do you think you ruined it all?
Oh, interesting. This Wi-Fi was apparently the one that was working.
For your mouse? Or whatever that is?
Wi-Fi 3, I guess, is the AC, the 2.4 gigahertz AC. Now I've had N rather. N was working, AC was not working. AC being the internal network. I'm assuming you just reset something?
Or not. Sorry.
It's all right. Troubleshooting on the fly is always a fun thing to do. And it's always important to know which parts are working and which aren't. Oh yeah, everything's down for me right now. Got to get down, got to get down, got to be like Charlie Brown, good grief. Keep 'em all in the days where the Wild Things plays. Something, something, good grief. That was a good album. I was looking forward to picking up Hackers on vinyl for Record Store Day, but Record Store Day has been put on indefinite hiatus thanks to the
world.
the face thing. Yeah.
The face thing.
Yeah, the world face thing.
Yeah. The world's just having one FaceTime right now, and that's never a good thing to do.
So let's just talk a bit about what we're going to do here once we get this working. Actually, you know what? I'm going to spend some time right now wiring this up in a safe manner, or safer manner.
You had it unsafe?
Well, no, yes, it was unsafe. It was clearly unsafe. Unplug those. Get out our big boy.
Now that's a big boy.
White is neutral. Neutral is top.
And before white was not neutral, gray was.
Yes, but different devices now.
We really should make a standard.
There we go. That's in, and then we'll get our hot wire too. Hot wire has been hot wire connected as well. Make sure that white one's nice and tight too. This is bizarre talking to myself without you here, chat. I miss you. Come back.
And I'm here too.
I mean, I get to see you every week, Matt. Tell you what, this this fabric cable not as good as I wanted it to be.
Wrong kind of fabric.
It's just
You want a chiffon on there?
it stretches out in weird ways. I don't like it. I don't like it much. What I should do is mark the neutral wire because I seem to be plugging and unplugging this a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure those wires are nice and straight.
And like that wire would look so much nicer if it had like a paisley pattern on it or something.
Blue Dalmatian.
Blue Dalmatian, yes.
It's what am I? Oh, Flower Power and Blue Dalmatian were the two of the original color, or not color, but patterned IMAX. They were not good colors. Let's be honest. Okay, let's get that there. Let's replug this in, and let's hope against hope that, well, if the internet, if we can't connect to our local Wi-Fi's. Okay, well, it appears that the network is up, but it's not passing internet for some reason.
Needs more fiber.
So let's just plug that in, hope it connects itself.
It is flashing a light.
Yeah. That means it's looking for the network it's supposed to be on. Sometimes I find these also like to just take their sweet time connecting. Okay, we got connection. And as you can see, if you push the button, the on-air light goes on.
There we are. I did not know that was a red bulb in there.
Oh yeah! That's super ominous. On air. Don't touch the microphone again. So let's try and connect to the Tasmota itself, if the unable to connect. So that tells me that might not be the, it may have a new IP address. We'll find out soon enough.
Any change?
It connected.
It's connected, but I can't seem to connect to it here. So like I said, it may have a new IP address, which I may need to ask you for.
Does it just change on a whim?
Well, it depends on the system. If something else was promiscuous enough and grabbed 206, 205, or 206.
If something else was in heat. I mean, if it doesn't work, we can just prank everyone by hooking it up and just having it always be on.
Yeah. So I am currently connected to the network, but it's telling me no internet secured.
Yeah, like my Wi-Fi's on my phone is off too.
Okay. That's going to cause us some issues here as we attempt to connect to things. Because it means that basically nothing can talk to each other, which is kind of the whole point of what we're doing here. What I can do, though, is do some, no, because I can't connect to the device. So yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern here, chat. What else can I talk about that might be interesting to you all?
All the magnets you still have.
Yeah, we got a bunch of magnets here. I do need to get a bucket of acetone and put them inside there so that I can peel the magnets off. Because it turns out that's the clutch way to release magnets from their hard drive prisons.
Is acid tone.
Ah, yes. Basic Bitch and the Acid Tones. That'd be a good name for a ska group, actually.
Or acid tone as like a drag queen name.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Acid Tone.
Because I know Acid Betty is a drag queen.
Take it off, 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 take it off. I'm not funny. What else do we got here going on that might be important to know about here? Yes, this is an important thing about these particular sawn-off boards. Let's go back to the camera. Oh, right, you don't have the ability to switch. You'd have to do that manually.
Just keep it roughly in front of, oh, okay, up there.
Actually, you know what? I'm just going to put it here, and then I can
Great.
look at it.
We're doing it on the fly. Oh, Paul's back.
Connected, secured. That looks good. What does it say about?
There we are.
Okay, there we are. So you've got your 4 GPIOs there. Now, unfortunately, on the basic R2, which is what these are, and you can tell it's the R2 because, let me just get my pointer, or a pointer out.
You have your screwdriver out, don't you?
I do, but the screwdriver's big and dummy thick.
So you get another screwdriver.
Down here, R2 power. That'll tell you that it's a sawn-off R2 model. Unfortunately, they removed one of the through holes. The original sawn-off basic has 5, which meant there was one of those GPIO pins that was always available, always open, wasn't used for anything else. So unfortunately on these ones we have to, if we want to use a sensor, use a different pin. And let me just go over the issues here with them, because yeah, GPIO 14 is the one that's usually popped out onto a different through hole.
Somebody's asking what actually is a GPIO.
Oh, general purpose I/O, general purpose input output. So either digital or analog in this case. So yeah, 14 is not the case. Can't be used. We usually like to use it for our sensors on other ones, so that we can keep the transmit and receive serial pins open for their intended use, serial communication. Let's see here. So on the back of it, you can, if you have a look here.
Shortly, briefly,
Once we get there,
with our close cam.
we can instead use this IO2, which is just a pad and not a through hole, which makes Ian sad because it means you can't put a pin in it, which makes it slightly more difficult to experiment with because you can't just plug and unplug things. So what we do instead is we use, one of the problems with that particular pin as well is that GPIO2 is, can have issues when it's booting. If it's pulled low, that is to say that if it's, I think that means that if it's not a closed circuit, then it won't actually boot into regular operational mode. So what we like to do, or what the suggested change is to use GPIO3. Unfortunately, GPIO3, if it's pulled high or gets pulled high momentarily after boot. So if you're hooking up lights to these or LEDs, they'll end up blinking, or it'll get a little bit of voltage when the system boots up. So what that means is that we like to use GPIO3, or GPIO3, I believe, because that one is, I believe, the TX pin.
The Texas pin.
Yeah, the transmit pin. So it means that you can't use serial and a sensor at the same time, but you end up getting something that actually works. Let me see here. Yeah.
So the main question I have, though, Ian, is how did this on-off switch for a light break our entire Wi-Fi?
I'm as confused as you are.
Great. The miracle of open source software.
pretty sure it's not the fault of the thing.
Yeah, I am also pretty sure of that, but also coincidences sure do seem to sure do seem like something that's real.
Yeah, but I'm anxious and want to blame something, so I will blame the small thing right in front of me.
Oh, Paul, I have some information for you that you were asking for earlier. It's not really relevant to this, but it's actually GPIO pin 12 that's hooked up to the relay to control it.
It's not configurable.
I mean, you could reconfigure that one, but currently it's soldered directly to the relay.
Yeah.
Much
Makes
like
sense. So all you have to do is set that to high, and the relay turns on. Or whatever.
exactly. And then 13 is hooked up to the LED. So technically, if you wanted to, you could remove the LED from this and use that as another another sensor port. Let's see here. All right, and I believe we end up using 3 or... Yeah, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I went to the wrong place. There we go. TX. Yes, GPIO 3, which is RX, and that's the one we like to use.
So if you do get this all set up correctly and playing nice, are you going to set up one for home as well? Like an on-air light?
No, actually, what I've done at home I still use Home Assistant to detect when the Tilty House account is going online. But what have done instead is I've configured it to sense when Tilty House goes online, and then send some commands to my my other systems to turn on quality of service on my router, such that priority is given specifically to the port, which is doing the streaming, and then turns all other traffic down to a lower priority than the streaming. So everything can still run, but just makes it easier.
But you don't have a nice, pretty light turn on.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, I could do that, but... No, Siri, I wasn't talking to you. No, I also don't have my own on... No, wait, I do have an on-air sign at home. I completely forgot I'd bought one when I was living in Japan. Huh. It's not the that style, but yeah. Thanks, Matt. I should actually do that.
Yeah, you could do that, or like paint over whatever phrase you want on there. You have the power; it's yours.
Yeah,
you own it.
I can do whatever I want with the things that I own.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Now it seems like it's probably a good time for us to take a break, and we'll possibly be back with a bit more Tinker Tailor, because we're currently just chatting, and by chatting I mean I'm talking at you, trying to fill air while we figure things out. But don't go away. We'll be back in 5, and we'll let you know where we're going from there. Stick around. More TTSF after this. Hey everyone, welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry. Well, we are currently playing around with ESP8266's Sonoff modules, etc. And, well, we're about to wrap things up here. Unfortunately, somehow my Home Assistant install in VirtualBox decided to just kick the bucket, and there was nothing I can do in the short time in between to fix that, so we're just going to ignore that for now, and we're going to move on with at least the motion detection system. So I'm going to put this back together so we can at least make it work here. It's I'm going to say have a look at Home Assistant. You'll be able to figure it out pretty easily yourself, I think, if you're a fan of this program, and if you've gotten as far as if you've done everything else we've done in this program, you won't have any troubles with Home Assistant. Just get used to YAML. YAML's real good. It's what they use for their config files.
Just be careful of your spaces.
Oh yes. Gotta love a file format that respects white space.
and tab depth.
Yeah. Spaces as tabs. Yeah. That said, also, if you're working with virtual machines, take more snapshots. That'll help you. Richie Crypt asks, Ian, can I ask where you got that on-air light? I've been after one for years. Honestly, I actually don't know where... I don't remember where this came from. It was a...
I think Jason sent it to us, actually.
That sounds right. That sounds right, actually.
Jason Chinook.
Really?
Of RoadQuest and Desert Bus.
Friend
fame.
of the show.
Yes. That being said, I think it's a thing that's available on like Amazon.
Oh yeah, these are you can get these sorts of lights anywhere. They're not restricted to being purchasable only by broadcast establishments.
Yeah, you can paint whatever symbols you want on there.
You were really hung up on this paint whatever you want on a on an on-air light, Matt.
It's the one DIY thing here I understand.
All right. Well, I'm going to just take my from my home connected ESP. We're going to connect these things up. So this is a motion sensor. It is a PIR motion sensor. This one is an AM312. And they're dirt cheap as well on the Amazons. 3 connectors, positive, negative, and data. Or, sorry, hot, ground, and data. The hot pin...
You got that hot ground data.
Yeah, ground goes to ground, and we are using RX? Yes, our RX is our data. So let's swap that over here. It's not plugged in, so I can touch that with impunity. RX and ground. Camera. And oopsie. Go there.
One of the things I've sort of messed with on occasion, or on and off for a little bit, is sort of my version of the on-air light, which was something that I was messing around with, where basically using the current, connecting up to our the current sort of overlay and server that runs various effects for our streams, such as the in-studio timer and stuff. I also had a version of that could be just run on like a whatever cheap iPad or cheap Android tablet or whatever. That would be like my thought was that it could sort of go outside the studio and be like, this studio is currently online and this is what they're doing. They actually pull rather than just a light, actually pulling the name of the stream off of Twitch and putting that in, being like, this is what they're currently doing, or so that it could be like, they're on a break right now. And you're like, I can go in.
That's a kind of cool idea. Mm-hmm. So what we're seeing right now here is what happens when you have your pins misconfigured. That currently it's set that TX is, and I believe that's TX. Yep, TX. If it's pulled high at boot, it won't boot normally. So let's shut it down. Unplug the sensor.
It's that's how the sensor is set?
Well, that's the default settings on these Tasmota devices. Come on. Don't make a liar out of me. I did plug it into the right side. Yeah, input to input. Don't tell me I just killed one of these things. Okay, let's try just that one. Just one plugged in. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Blinking.
Blinking? And
We did it, fam.
there we go. We are connected. Boop, boop. All right, let's head back on over to the Tasmota itself. Toggle, toggle. Perfect.
Yay.
Okay, we're halfway there. What you'd need to do is, let's have a look at the configuration screen here, because there's a lot of options here.
Ooh.
Boom. Domotix is a different system that I know nothing about. MQTT is what we were using earlier, and that's where you can go in to enter in where your MQTT server is, what your topics are, because that's how you end up separating these devices out from each other. Or you can have multiple devices on the same topic and have some...
Oh wow! It actually is like almost like a WebSocket system.
Yeah, it's really quite nifty. You can just do timing, like have it work on a timer itself. And the module, I believe, is... Yep, this is our basic information. Now, this is where you can go in and say, what type of device have you connected?
Ah, I see. And it's got configuration stuff built in
Yep.
for those.
There are various other sawn-off devices, 4-channel ones, touch wall things, generic stuff. But we're not going to deal with those because we need to use a template. Because we're using the sawn-off basic R2. So we're going to grab the template here, which is, again, findable on the Tasmota template server or their documentation server.
And
so grab that.
Those GPIO values are just setting that's like the range.
Well, it's telling you what GPIO is used for what. And that's configured actually under Other. We're going to put the template in there. Boop. This is where else you could come to give it the name. What would we have here? Walter was what people like.
Walter, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. You can also have it just emulate.
Walter with 2 L's.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Walter
And of course,
Cronkite, I
if you-
think, right?
if-
You like him?
Yeah, I do love my Walter Cronkite. And people like to think I look like Walter White. You can even...
So you can have it emulate stuff.
Yeah, if you don't want to use it with a special system and you just want to integrate it with your Belkin installations or your Philips Hue, which I understand is quite popular, you can just do that.
Interesting. I thought they used sort of proprietary protocols, but I guess it's been figured out.
So it's going to reset itself now, and then it's going to reconnect to the network. And now, if Paul were to go back and look at the network logs, he would see that a device with the name of Walter has connected to the network. All right, let's have a look. Oop, that's the console. That'll tell you where all the fun stuff is. But we'll get there in a second. We're going to go back to the configuration here. And now we need to configure our template, which is based... Oh, right, we didn't do was... Go back to Other. We need to activate our brand new template. In addition to turning it on. Thank you, Offbeat Witch, for noticing that as well.
You must activate your Walter.
So, we got that. Let's now head into the the deeper configurations. We're going to go to the Other. No, Other is where we were. Template. We've done this about 4 or 5, well, let's say 25 times or so. So right now you can see that GPIO is currently set as a button, and that just lets it know that it's going to expect GPIO to act like a button. One single push on, single push off.
Right. As opposed to something that has like analog values that it can receive or something.
Exactly. So now, GPIO 3 is what we're going to be wanting to use, which is our, if I recall, GPIO 3 is currently set to TX. Yes. If I Yes. So we're going to go back to Walter configuration, GPIO 3, and we're going to make it a switch. I think switch 9 is the one we want, but we're going to double check that.
Is the number in brackets the like number of settings that switch has? Like
So-
the number of potential options?
Well, they have to do with the type of mode that the switch is in, and again, that's all covered in the Tasmoda ARC documentation. I
So
think-
it's just connected to it. That's just like an ID number.
Yeah. There's switch type 9, I believe, is one that remembers its state, where there are other switches that don't. But so we got switch 9 or switch 19, and we're on the correct one, which means it will now expect GPIO 3 to behave like a switch rather than being a transmission. The TX for serial. And actually, we'll come back there and have a look at that in a second, just so I can show you what some of the other options are. But that's basically where you can go to configure how this thing works. Let's have a look there. Nope, that's other. Dang it. Keep going to the wrong one. Configure template. Yes, there it is. So, GPI 00, you could have these different button types, but if you wanted to connect a switch to it, you could do so. If you were connecting a relay to that point, it would work differently in that it would start sending out the relay information.
So you'd have to know. So you have to go and look up what all these, what all these relays or switch or
Yeah, what they expect.
what kind of or what thing corresponds to the one that you're actually trying to do.
Yep. There's also pulse width modulation modes, so you can
It's
from these things
for like radio control airplanes
Yep.
or whatever.
or more commonly these days for LEDs, LED strips, so that you can control the brightness, color of your strip that way. Buzzers, here's where your serial TX, you could just swap TX and RX around. If you've got different other types of sensors, the DHT11, that's this type of temperature and humidity sensor. If you were to connect that. I2C is another form of communication protocol for other sensors. You can set those up. There's so many options here.
So many.
But right now we've got it set that GPIO 3 is a switch. So what we're going to do now is we're going to unplug this.
I believe the Blackmagic Studio Micro actually has because it was one of the things that it's designed for is for aerial photography. It actually has control via PWM stuff and
Oh, nice.
built into its breakout cable, which is kind of interesting. You can do various commands to it via PWM.
It looks like, sorry, RX is the one that I'm using, not TX. So I've got that currently connected improperly. I need to move my data line over one. So hopefully that I got things correct there. Okay. Still nothing. Now why is that? What have I misconfigured here? Let's take the power out. That's ground. Oh, do I have those mixed up? I think I do. That might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
If your power and your ground are... Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. This time it might matter. Come on. Get your little self in there. Okay, plug that in. There we go. It did matter. Okay, let it come on up. Okay.
And so that's the thing where I was talking about how when the system boots up, it automatically pulls that the GPIO 3
pin
high,
high.
right?
So there's a little bit more sort of configuration you need to do for certain sensors, specifically for these motion sensors. Let's have a look. So,
What we do is we just have the on-air light turn on when there's motion, which works for everything except when you and Cam's Christmas won't work so well.
Yeah.
But
so if we pull back to the computer here, let me just grab the screen so that it looks a little bit easier to see. More configuration needs to happen. We need to tell the relay that we need to tell Walter that we want the switch to work in a specific way, and we do that via the console. So we enter in, we want switch mode 1. I don't remember what that means because I don't remember all the documentation. And then we're going to switch the topic.
I appreciate the mentality behind like designing a little like control UI for your whole system, and then just having a way to break out of that into just console if you need to. The target audience is like, okay, these little clicky buttons and fields are nice, but give me a console. Give me a console. Come on.
So what we're going to do is we're going to set a rule in the software here, so this thing can work on its own a little bit. And this rule is going to state that whenever this thing sees motion, it's going to stay on for 30 seconds until it doesn't see any more motion. And it'll reset that trigger every time it sees motion. Because right now, a motion detector works like a switch in that it goes on when it's detecting motion, but then it turns itself off after a while. Specifically, these ones, I think, go live for like 10 seconds or 15 seconds normally. So wave, it goes on. Wait, it goes off.
That seems to be like 3 seconds right now.
Yeah. And actually what this switch is going to do here is it's going to send out information via MQTT that it's giving the on-off section, or the on-off setting. So if we look at the console here, power goes off, power goes on, and stop the hand.
But I mean, you don't need MQTT for this though, because
Exactly.
it's internal to the system.
Yeah, and so that's when you've sorry, I lost my train of thought there. The various switch modes allow you to set this up in such a way that it can, when it detects motion, it can stay on until it receives an off command from somewhere else.
Right. Although I guess theoretically you can't. It would be tricky to have it stay on for a shorter amount of time though, because the switch is on for like there's the way the switch operates. It stays on for 3 seconds. Or whatever.
Exactly. What we would eventually have ended up doing had we got everything working properly is we would have disconnected the motion sensor from the relay directly and had it set up that the motion sensor would just send an MQTT signal back to Home Assistant. Home Assistant would process whether or not it needs to see whether it needs to do anything with that signal being on or off based on whether we're online or not. and then send a separate command directly to the relay on the Sonoff to turn the light on or off.
So that way the motion sensor wouldn't have to actually be attached. Like it's a separate wireless component. It can be wherever.
Exactly, yeah. So you could have one, which is what I'm doing with this at home right now, is I have nothing connected to the opposite side. It's just connected to the wall with the motion sensor, and that connects to my IKEA lights from my bedroom, which IKEA lights normally would not be able to talk to anything else, but through the magic of these omnivorous systems like Home Assistant, like Homebridge, and a few other ones, you can connect all these things together.
So the IKEA lights turn on when you walk in and that kind of stuff. Is that what they're?
Well, no, not that they turn on when they come in. I just have it set up so that if there is no motion detected in the room for 5 minutes, then it just shuts the lights off. And so that's a way of just not having to remember to turn the lights off every time I leave the room.
I spent a lot of time in my room like reading and stuff. I'd be concerned that it would just like shut off because it's like you're not moving enough.
I'm just reading Twitter.
It's like those. It's kind of like an Apple Watch. It's like start moving. Now is this particular motion sensor is sort of a digital thing, right? It's like it either sees motion or it doesn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a way to evaluate how much motion it sees.
Exactly. That's where different motion sensors come into play. This one is
Presumably that would be quite a bit more complex motion sensor.
Yep. And the price will increase as well, and sometimes the size will increase. For example, if you just scroll down in the documentation, if you wanted to buy the HC SR501, it's got its own little adjustment screws for sensitivity and time adjustment.
Huh.
And then, of course, there's smaller ones as well. But these ones were the least expensive and seemed to fit the bill for what I wanted to do with them, which is why I grabbed them.
You ever done the thing like if you're in an office that has a motion sensor with like a light on it, seeing how slowly you can move across the room without activating it?
I mean, that's exactly what I did the first time I got this hooked up. Is like, okay, how much motion does it sense? Is my shaky hand enough motion for it to know, or is it does it require something more? And you can apparently take the lenses off these things to make them less sensitive.
Oh, so the lens sort of focuses the... Oh, interesting.
Exactly. Other things you can do with Home Assistant specifically is I know that it ties directly into DDWRT firmware for routers, which is great. And that provides for me another level of presence detection based on just my phone. If my phone is showing up on the network as a device that's there, I use that as a method of saying, hey, Home Assistant, Ian's at home. So do things that are related to Ian being at home or someone being at home at all.
Now, before we started this, you mentioned that you left your phone at home.
Exactly.
So, some best laid plans.
You know what? Actually, just for fun, I think this is pretty safe. Can you crop without showing anyone the address bar out of? Okay, and hopefully I've got iHorner, and I'm looking for. Sorry, I use 1Password to generate my passwords, and I have it set up to give me 3 random words, and the one I got for the one I got for Home Assistant was just great. I would love to be able to say it out loud, but
all right, can I?
Yep. So yeah, as long as we don't show the address bar.
Yeah.
Perfect. There we go. So you can see I currently am home. Corey's at home. No one is watching anything on Plex right now. Twitch is not streaming, and it is 22 degrees and has a 34% humidity. Right. If you click on that, you can see that, oh look, I went for a walk earlier today when I was away.
Wow.
Yeah, it's also got information about how much battery is left in the motion sensor and in the remote controls that I've got for my various rooms.
Huh.
It integrates with the televisions directly. So my LG TV, I can turn the power on, turn night sound or speech enhance on my sound bar, and switch inputs based on whatever I'd like to use. This section here was just a testing section for the motion sensor that we were literally working on earlier.
Oh, I see.
And if we can just move this over to the left, you can see this is my living room climate right now, with a nice fancy graph of things that went. So those are some of the...
So if you see like the humidity being like 100% at home, something has gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I know something's very wrong. But let's just go over to the Everything tab here, because this really shows off. Home Assistant, when you first install it, will be helpful enough to grab everything that it thinks it knows. And so
It connects to all your devices on the network.
a lot of different settings there, including battery information for the phones. But also, they have set up a sensor for daylight or for where the sun is based on your location. So you can have it set up that if there is motion, if I am home and you detect motion in a room and it is after dark, then turn on the lights. But if you detect motion and someone is home and the light and the sun is still up, don't turn on the lights. And right now, currently, as I said, the main automation that I have set up is for the Tilty House Twitch streaming, which has been offline for 5 days. But when it does go online, it changes the QoS on quality of service settings on my router, such that everything else except for the streaming gets bulk priority.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm mostly impressed by that because I have literally never successfully gotten quality of service
To work properly.
to systems to work properly over about 5 different routers.
Oh no.
It seems to always end up being just causing more problems than it actually fixes. But so that's impressive. But that's super neat.
So yeah, those are some of the things you can do with Home Assistant. If I come up with anything that's absolutely necessary that I share it all with you, I'll do so. But boy, yeah, I hope this has inspired you all to pick up a couple of these inexpensive devices and experiment with home automation. It's or go down to IKEA and grab a light control system there, and make it start working with other things that you might want to work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one of the big things about this is like not only building your own stuff, but also there's all these sort of, the Philips Hue and the Belkin stuff and the IKEA stuff. There's all these sort of disparate home automation things that all kind of live inside their own ecosystems, but there's no reason why they can't be sort of broken out.
Yeah, I won't say that the possibilities are endless, but here's one of the ones that I was actually thinking of doing here when I was ordering some of the parts for this particular episode. Turns out that one of the supported sensors for these Sonoff devices under the Tasmota firmware are RFID. RFID readers. So you could theoretically make your own smart lock system to badge into your house and just flip through. And that's just a combination of relays, locks, and that RFID reader. Socratic Method does point out, though, that please do isolate your home automation system from the internet or practice safe security.
And I mean, part of this whole thing is that rather than using the built-in software, which even if it's not actually, doing anything malicious, is still, there's a good chance that it has some old unpatched version of various libraries and things that, even if there isn't anything nefarious going on in terms of sending all of your personal information to servers in other parts of the world, there's still a very good chance that it's unpatched and using some software that has security holes and stuff. I believe the current situation online, at least it was a little while ago, is that the most prevalent botnets are actually built of IoT devices, not of actual computers.
It's very true. It is very true.
They're because they're so easy to for people to grab.
Oh, you know what? I see two statements there right in a row. Julia Mon saying, always assume a vulnerability, and Arclight Dynamo saying, the only real security is an air gap. And I would counter that an air gap isn't even secure anymore with all of these ability to connect to Alexas and whatnot using a laser.
Yeah. Or transfer. There's also there's some awesome stuff, also terrifying, about transferring data via ultrasonic things. So you can be playing something can break the air gap by being broadcast audio and then being received audio.
Oh yeah.
But at an ultrasonic frequency, so nobody can hear it happening.
Aaron Ravage is suggesting data exfiltration using his fan speed changes, also a possibility. Like my advice has always been, if there is some piece of information on your devices that a nefarious person wants, and that device has at any point been connected to the internet, they already have that information. You're done. There is always risk. So be aware of that risk, and which is why this show exists and why I'm showing you how to do this. All of this, take control of that risk yourself if you feel comfortable doing so. And there's a lot that you can get out of it. And I think that's going to bring us to the end of this particular episode of Tinker, Tailor, Soldier Fry. Thank you so much for your patience in going through all this. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy sharing this with you and hopefully inspiring you to try this out on your own. I want to thank as well everyone out there who's been who supported us by just simply watching. If you're in the chat chatting, if you're just laying back on your couch and lurking around, we enjoy having all of you there, and especially thanks to, well, not especially, but thanks as well to all of you viewing on YouTube on the VODs, which are available at youtube.com/loadingradiolive. That's where all of our VODs live, and you can check out youtube.com/loadingreadyrun for our pre-recorded and high-tier premium content. And of course, all of our magic content is sequestered over at youtube.com/LRRMTG. What else should I mention? We should also mention the Patreon, which is over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you so much to all of you who show your support there. That helps us out by keeping the lights on and purchasing new lights to turn on. We should also thank those of you who are so kind as to subscribe here at twitch.tv. But before we do, Paul, would you be able to tell us what is coming up on the Loading Ready Run Network?
I'll tell you. Tomorrow morning, Graham is continuing with his Final Fantasy VII playthrough. I believe he is hoping to get out of Midgard this time in this episode. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm feeling for him. After my slog through Shenmue, I'm feeling for trying to get out of a city.
I was saying to Graham during Checkpoint that I kind of wish that, even though like he's playing it on Steam, but I kind of wish that it gave you a notification when, if you had been playing it on the PlayStation, it would have switched discs. But you don't have to, so keep playing.
We should really just wire up a CD motor in the background just so we can have the proper loading sounds.
The whirring, yeah.
Yeah, and there's the pit in your stomach when it goes on slightly longer than you're used to. You're like, oh, what happened?
Or a bit louder or sudden.
But then we've got a bonus stream tomorrow afternoon because it's Animal Crossing New Horizon.
Yes.
the much anticipated
Yes.
by many, many people. Actually, for those who did watch Checkpoint this afternoon, the EB Games 9 p.m. Launch of Animal Crossing has been canceled for good reason, obviously, because they quite reasonably decided that having a bunch of people all line up in a big group is not the best idea. So that's not happening. But the bonus stream of Animal Crossing tomorrow will definitely be happening. It can be Heather and Kathleen, and Heather's going to be making the loading ready run island, I guess.
Can't stop the signal.
Whoops.
Oh.
And then it's Friday Night Paper Fight, where we're going to be playing some Commander. Ooh. No particular theme. I think it's just
Good magic.
It's just Commander.
I think the theme is play what you want.
Exactly. And then I keep pushing the wrong button. And then on Saturday, there's another bonus stream because Call of Duty Warzone has come out. Came out a little while ago, but we haven't got a chance to try it out yet. So James is going to be playing that. It's another one of these battle royale type games, except I think this one goes to 150 players.
This is a big boy.
And from what I understand, there's a lot of things that sort of really streamline the whole gameplay process. It sounds like a good idea.
Nice. It's apparently huge too, which is unfortunate. Like 80 gigabytes?
Puh, 80 gigabytes.
Yeah, I guess that's not huge these days.
Yeah. Now on Sunday, it's Rhythm Cafe.
Yeah. And
where it's not going to be symphonic rain. No?
Nope. I can't do that without my good buddy Heather. So I'm going to have to find a new game to play in that time. And yeah, you'll find out what it is hopefully before Sunday.
At some point during the course of the stream, you will find out what game Ian is playing.
Yeah, because I said it. I can't do it without her.
And on Monday, Play It Forward, continuing on with the Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is going to be episode 5 of 6 of Heat Death. And I think we all know by 5/6 of the way through any kind of alien movie, everything is great and relaxed, and all the major danger has passed.
We're all in danger.
So that should be pretty sweet. I hope you all have been enjoying that. You can check out loadingreadyrun.com, or sorry, youtube.com/loadingreadyrun has the full playthroughs of all the previous episodes. Yeah, that's coming up to Monday. I want to make sure you keep an eye on loadingreadyrun.com/live, which is where the schedule is, and that also has a link to the calendar. Obviously, circumstances over the next couple weeks especially are still in flux. A lot is going to depend on the Canadian, BC, and Victoria governments and what their policies are going to be over the next little while. And obviously we're going to be very careful about stuff. So
Developments are ongoing.
But streaming will continue in some form or another as much as is possible. So we thank you very much for your support and your patience. And I hope that we can provide some entertainment for you if you happen to be in a situation where you're stuck inside.
Speaking of thanking people, we would like to thank specifically, as we always do at the end of these shows, those of you who supported us with your kind donations of bits and subscriptions. Paul, let's find out who our special people are today.
Starting with
Magic Warlock, who has been a subscriber for 8 whole months. Blessings from the Void has been a subscriber for 2 whole years. Thank you for your continued support. Drasvin, you're back for your 31st month, and I would like to thank you for that. I'd also like to thank Cam the Lion, who has been a subscriber for 28 months. Cheers to you. And thank you to Senor Diablo for 13 months of subscription. That is a spooky number from Senor Diablo.
Well-known Transylvanian devil.
It's a good point. Bleh. Stefan JM81 has been a subscriber for 37 months, unless you're Steven, in which case you've been a subscriber for 37 months. Thank you. Machaimus has been a subscriber for 40 months. Thank you for your continued support. And thank you, Kakmais, for 18 months. That's 3 times 6, and that's great. Dragon Brethren is a good brother of 48-month vintage. Thank you. And Harvester 369 has been around for 43 months. Keep on pulling in that wheat. Thank you to Bob Baggins, the brother of Bilbo. Let's find out. 25 months of subscription under your belt. Thank you.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about Robert Baggins.
Robert. Vulcan Phase, 40 months. Cheers to you. Here comes Kilo Ken. That's 1,000 Kens, and that's great. Congratulations on your sub, baby. And thank you to Jess K. They're pretty okay with those 24 months. 2 years. Cheers. Zarshal. Everyone loves Zarshal. For 40 months. Herberderpaderp. 54 months. Thank you. Sorry, that 0 got stuck there. Very ominous for half a year. Thank you for that support. And thank you for Alive with Cake. 37 months of resubscription and lots of cake. OP has been OP for 10 months. Nerf it. Exit pursued by a bear. 53 months. Almost taking us out, but not quite. Because Skynet is here with a gift sub from Ivalens. Thank you for that gift sub.
Hopefully, by watching our streams, Skynet will be distracted long enough that we can avoid Judgment Day.
Yeah, if we can just get it into one of these little things and just trap it there, it'll be perfect. And of course, thank you to Arctic D&D and Type 1 for those 200 bits, the bits. That brings us to the end of yet another broadcast day here on Loading Ready Run. Thanks again to everyone watching, talking, and flashing, as the case may be. We'll see you again in a fortnight, as we say always, ever forward, ever learning.